Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I am going to be ranking all of my fall and Halloween palettes that I've tried this year. So all newer ones, and I kind of made it my mission to try mostly almost every single Halloween palette I could find. So I have a ton of indie brands in here, and this was so hard to do because there was some really great palettes in here. Some that were not as good, of course, as well. And yeah, I had 21 total to rank for you guys. So even though I know it's the end of Halloween, I think that you could still use these palettes anywhere, anytime. It doesn't just have to be for spooky season. And now you can kind of see a little bit of my Halloween palette collection as well, plus some fall releases too. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so at the bottom, I had to put the Too Faced Maple Syrup Pancakes at number 21. I'm just so bored with Too Faced lately, and I decided to give this one a try because it was like one of the first fall launches, and I always just hope for the best when it comes to these palettes because I used to love them so much. Like, I feel like their gingerbread ones, their original pumpkin spice was so good, but lately, I don't know, they just have not been impressing me, and I feel like they're so expensive for what you get, like $50, and I'm not feeling like this is high-end quality. I feel like it feels like drugstore quality or something that Colourpop can do for half the price, and that's why we always find these for half off. But I was kind of intrigued by this color story a bit. I thought it was a little bit different, you know? It's not the usual browns that Too Faced does, but I did just feel like the punch was lacking. The metallics aren't shimmery enough for my taste. They're just more on like the subtle kind of satin side, and I just prefer very metallic shadows when it comes to my shimmers, and maybe that's not everyone's opinion too. I feel like if you want just like easy natural daily makeup, then this can be good, but yeah, it was not a love for me. I wanted so much more from this. Okay, at number 20, I decided to put the Tarte Man-Eater, which I did like this one. I don't think it's a terrible palette, but it just falls short compared to everything else I have tried. Just to be honest with you, indie, smaller brands just tend to do it better when it comes to shadows, and honestly, I do recommend you spend your money on some of these more ones on the top rather than some of these. I know these are easy access, like you can just find them at Sephora and Ulta, but you can definitely find better for the price. Now, if these go on sale half off, you know, sure, then I think it's worth it, but when these palettes are costing upwards of $50, I think they can do better. So with the Tarte Man-Eater, this one, I kind of like that they switched it up. This is the, sorry, I should say it's the Man-Eater Nightfall palette because they had the Man-Eater After Dark last year. I think I like last year's better. It's very fall toned. This one they added a little bit more colors with the blues and purples, but it was so funny when I ended up swatching this with the old palette. A lot of the neutrals were the same in them, but the last two rows were a bit different since it has more of those cooler tones. I will say some of these metallics are very shiny, and that's why it ranks above the Too Faced palette, because this is definitely a shinier, more soft kind of formula, but some of those cooler tones ended up being a little on the patchy side, so it just didn't reach the top spots for me. Okay, at number 19, I'm sad to put this here, but the Melt Halloween Town palette. This one, okay, I put it up a little higher because the packaging is 10 out of 10. I absolutely love all the details that went into this packaging, and I'm just a sucker for Nightmare Before Christmas. But these shades are so hard for me to work with. These mattes are very patchy. They are very pigmented though. Every single time I've tried to do a look with this palette, I've been a little disappointed and just left wanting more, or I just didn't feel like the look matched up. I feel like these colors are a little bit hard to kind of pair together, at least for me. I like to do color, but I do more monochromatic looks. So when it comes to this kind of a color story, it's a little hard for me to kind of think of looks to do. I don't like these colors for Nightmare Before Christmas. I don't know, it just didn't really make total sense to me. So I ended up buying this because I was fearing that I was gonna miss out, and I'm like, I just want to try it. I want to have this. It's such a nice like collectible piece. But then they released the Christmas Town one, and I honestly preferred that over this Halloween Town. So I did not think that the quality of this palette was worth $60. Their formula just is not my favorite. Okay, at number 18, I did put this little Ofra palette. This was a collab with my friend Allie Dawson, and it's a great palette. This is the best palette I have tried from Ofra, but it's such a small one, and I kind of wish it had a little bit more shimmers, so that's why it ranks a little bit lower, because I had some amazing palettes in this ranking, but like these mattes are actually better than the ones that are in the Melt palette as far as blendability goes, just how soft and smooth they are. I was really impressed, and I felt like Ofra kind of like stepped up their quality a bit, or Allie just picked really great colors to put in this, and it has this gorgeous glitter topper shade, which I think is stunning. I do feel like I have to build that one up a bit to kind of show more, but it is a very beautiful palette, and she did such a good job, especially since I'm not usually a fan of Ofra shadows. I thought this one was actually pretty decent. At number 17, I did have to put Scooby-Doo Wet n Wild at this part just because it's not as good as my other palettes ahead of it, but this is great for Wet n Wild and for a cheaper price point, but I kind of go off more of quality than price, if that makes sense. And I think this is one of their best collabs. I think it's great for the drugstore, and this would be a top tier for a drugstore video because I feel like it's so hard to find good palettes at like Walmart and Target. This one really impressed me. Usually I am not the biggest fan of the Wet n Wild collabs, like the Alice in Wonderland, the Care Bears. What else have they done? SpongeBob. I just never really loved them, but this one was actually very nice. I wish the mattes had a little bit more punch to them, but they're still really soft and easy to blend, and the shimmers are actually very pretty in this palette. I was so impressed. I think this is such a good one for Wet n Wild, even though I had to rank it lower. If you're looking for a good $10 palette, definitely check this one out. Okay, number 16, I finally tried Gourmand Girls for the first time. I decided to pick up the Nightshade palette. I was debating between this one and the Haunted one, and I went with this one because I feel like it was a really pretty purple color story. So this one, I really liked the mattes in here. This had one of the most pigmented black shadows that actually blended like a dream, so that was very impressive. But I will say these more chunky shimmers were a bit crumbly on me, and I did get some fallout on the eyes. They are so pretty once you kind of blend them out, but like I'm already having this one kind of breaking a little bit. I feel like they're just a little bit loosely pressed in there and not pressed hard enough where I'm getting like fallout, which I don't really love when I'm doing a look. But I mean, other than that, I thought it was pretty good, but maybe not top tier for my indie palettes I've tried. I'll definitely have to try one or two more from the brand to really get a feel for their shadows, but I did get quite a bit of compliments on my look that I did with this palette, so I did rank it lower just because I do have better, and there's just a few things I just didn't love about this. Okay, number 15 is going to go to the Melt Christmas Town eyeshadow palette. I do think that this one is better than the Halloween Town. It still ranks lower because I still find their dark matte shades to be on the patchy side and a little bit hard to blend. So I really can't put this one in the top no matter how much I love the theming and the packaging of this one. And I really do like the color story here, but it wasn't the easiest to work with. Still, I'm actually wearing this one on my eyes right now, and I did do a video on this one. I don't know if it's gonna be up before this or after. It probably would make sense to do it before. We'll see. But yeah, I wish that Melt had a little bit of a softer matte formula, and I do wish that their shimmers had just a little bit more iridescence to them, but overall this was such a pretty palette, and I absolutely loved the packaging on this. Okay, number 14 I decided to give to the Wicked Widow Graveyard Smash palette. I actually really like this brand, and I thought this was such a fun palette for them to do. It's a little bit smaller, so I feel like there's not as much I can do with this one as I can with a lot of other palettes, so I did rank it more lower middle tier here, but it was beautiful. I did do a fun look with this one on Instagram. I like that there is a little bit of neutral shades, but honestly I do kind of feel like I need a couple more mattes in this palette to do full-on looks with, because with these greens I kind of wish I had something a bit darker in the outer corner, like a dark forest green instead of this mid-tone one, and then I wish I had a dark brown to go with this Bronze Monster Matte shade. So it's just missing a couple things for me that I think would kind of complete the palette. But other than that, I think it's really cute. The quality is great on this one. The mattes are so soft and blendable, and the shimmers are stunning. So if it was just a little bit bigger, I think I would have liked it a bit more. Number 13 is going to go to the Sigma Beauty and the Beast palette. This one, I know it's a little more neutral. I am a neutral girly though, so I actually thought this was pretty good. It's actually one of my favorites that they've done in their whole line, and out of all the Disney palettes, I thought this was the best. I feel like their matte formula is getting so good. The shimmers, I feel like it could use still an extra punch. Like the Belle shade, I was kind of disappointed in because it was so light on the eyes. I feel like I wanted that to be a brighter yellow to represent Belle's dress, but it was just so light, and I feel like I couldn't even pick up the shimmer in person. It just didn't look that great. And then the Winter's Night topper is so light. So there's just a couple things that I would like to improve with this one, but overall I thought this was really a great palette for Sigma, and I love all the fun neutrals in here. Plus I love Beauty and the Beast, so I did rank this one kind of in the middle. Number 12, I have not done a video on this yet, but the Nomad Air travel palette came out just a few weeks ago. I decided to put this one in the middle because it is a smaller palette, but it's actually such a nice travel palette. Like, these are all I need when I'm traveling, just like my essential neutrals, and I love Nomad's shimmer formula lately. Oh my gosh, it's been so good, as well as their mattes. So I have been really liking this one. I just feel like it's a nice, easy reach palette. You only have 6 shades in here, but it has like a light, a mid-tone, and like a darker matte, which is perfect, and a couple different tones of shimmers, and such a good formula. So I did go ahead and rank that one in the middle. Number 11, I decided to give it to the Anastasia Fall Romance palette. When it comes to some of the palettes at, let's say, Ulta and Sephora, Anastasia, I still really love their formula. I will say I do have some palettes that do rank quite a bit higher from some indie brands that just really have high shine metallics, but Anastasia still does a great job. I do feel like her mattes though take a little bit of building to get the pigment where you want it to be, but the shimmers I still feel like are so beautiful, even though they don't have multi-chromes in them most of the time. It's just a nice easy reach for the fall and winter season with these beautiful warm tones. It's kind of like an upgrade of the modern Renaissance a bit. So I actually really enjoy this one, and I've been wearing it quite a bit. Number 10 is going to go to Natasha Denona Xenon palette, and I feel like I've been giving this one a little bit of grief. You guys probably thought it was going to be lower on this ranking, but I can't deny the quality here. The quality is great, and it's an easy reach for smoky tones, but I do feel like it is very repetitive. A lot of these kind of shimmery silvery whites kind of swatch almost the same, but there's just like very subtle differences in them. And then I wish this had a dark black in the palette. It has 2 dark grays that are technically cream to powder mattes, so they actually don't get as deep as you would think. So I feel like it's missing a couple things for me. It's a little too big. I feel like this could have been 2 rows, but I know she doesn't ever do palettes that size, but there's definitely a specific audience for this palette, but I don't think it's for everyone. I have been enjoying this though, and I've done some pretty good looks, but a lot of them do look very similar, but these colors do suit my skin tone and my eye color. I do have more cool tones, and I do have more blue eyes, so I feel like this one looks good on me, and all the looks I've done I've really enjoyed. But yeah, it does look very similar, so I kind of put this one in the middle. At number 9, I decided to put the Colourpop Haunted Mansion palette. Now this one, I was so excited when this was launching. I think that it's so cool that they did a Haunted Mansion theme, one of my favorite go-to rides at Disney World, and I absolutely love the color story that they did with this one. I personally feel like it fits the ride. As someone who has been on the ride multiple times, I know not everyone really liked it, but I mean, this is totally the colors from Haunted Mansion. Like cool tone, neutrals, some blues in there, some purples. I really enjoyed this one, and I thought the quality was really good on this one too. There is a couple shimmers that I wish packed a little bit more punch. I did use this Ballroom Ghost shade on the lid, but it wasn't as kind of sparkly as I wish that it would have been, but it's still a very nice palette, and it's actually pretty affordable compared to a lot of the other palettes in this ranking. So yeah, I had to give them kind of, it's like in between, but also kind of on the top tier. I think this one went out of stock, but I hope that it will restock again because it's really good. Okay, number 8, I'm going to give it to the Odin's Eye Angelica Nyquist collab. This is the Little Ghost palette. She did come out with 2 palettes, so there's still one more that I haven't shared yet, but this one I didn't like quite as much, mostly just because of the colors. Like, these aren't really my kind of colors I wear very often. I don't wear a lot of blues, and I have a lot of purples in other palettes, so I just wasn't as excited about this one. But as always, the quality with Odin's Eye I personally really like. I feel like this was easy to work with. It has pigmented mattes that are still easy to blend out, and the shimmers are super sparkly, very soft, creamy, and metallic. So I love the formula. It just wasn't like my favorite color story from them. Okay, number 7, I wanted to give to the Glaminatrix Sugar and Spice palette. This is more of an indie brand, but I really love the tones in this one, except for there's a couple shades in here that I'm kind of like, I don't know about that. But this whole top row of shimmers is so stunning. I absolutely love even like these more neutral shimmers. This nutmeg shade is gorgeous. I will say with their shimmers, they have like a little bit of fallout with them, not a ton, but just be careful with them. But they are really soft and creamy though. I love that they create some kind of neutral leaning palettes, but with these stunning shimmers. That just makes me so happy. Their mattes are also very good. I don't really like this mint shade in here though. I feel like I won't get a ton of use out of that. It's kind of springy to me for a fall palette, as well as this pale yellow, but I can get a lot of really good neutral looks with this one, so I have been enjoying this one. I do like their formula a lot. Okay, number 6 goes to the Fantasy Cosmetica Warlock. This is actually a smaller palette, but it made the top tier because I love these colors and I love this formula. Wow, Fantasy Cosmetica is a new brand to me from the past month, and I've just fallen so in love. I think they have some of the most unique shifty shimmers, and their mattes are great as well. This is kind of an out there color story, but I think they also make it easy and wearable because you can do row by row. Like they make the greens here that you could easily pair with the pinks together, the purples together, so you can kind of go row by row here, and it makes it more easy to come up with more colorful looks. But wow, I was just so impressed with the quality of this palette, and the look I did with this was so beautiful, so I definitely wanted to rank this one pretty high. Number 5 is the other Odin's Eye and Angelica palette. This is the Trick or Treat palette. I actually liked these colors a bit more. This is so fun, especially this green right here is so cool. I like greens a lot, so I guess that's why this one ranks up a little bit higher. This one reminded me of like Halloween candy, so I think Trick or Treat is like the perfect name for this, but I like that this one is just a little bit more wearable for me and just colors that I like, and I was obsessed with the look that I did with this palette. So this one is so good, and the formula is great. If you do like Odin's Eye, you have to try this one, especially if you do like brighter colors. I know these are a bit out there if you're more into neutrals, but I think this one still has some fun neutrals that you could play with. These were so hard to put in order. I decided to put number 4 as the Glamlight and Ghostface palette. If you are wanting a smoky palette, I think this one is the way to go. I like this way better than the Natasha Denona Xenon palette. I think it's a little bit more unique. Now, Glamlight also has a few more Halloween palettes coming out, but those aren't coming until later. I did order the Friday the 13th Jason palette. That one's a little more colorful, but I don't have that one yet, so I didn't include them in the ranking. But I'm very happy with this Ghostface palette. Especially love this like green shifty color here. It's absolutely beautiful. It has a nice bronze color in here, and it just has a few more workable colors than the Xenon palette does. It's just beautiful. I love Glamlight's formula, and they're like half the price of Natasha Denona as well. They do such a good job for like 35 bucks, I think this is. I also have a code with them. Anyone I have a code with, I'm gonna have it on the screen because I do have a lot, especially with these indie brands. But wow, this is incredible. Definitely recommend picking this up for a cool tone smoky palette. Number 3, I gave it to the Nomad Ghost Town palette. This was one of the first Halloween ones this year, and it really blew me away. This is probably my favorite Nomad palette yet. I just love the colors in here. So beautiful. It has quite a bit of neutrals, but I love these muted colors, like the greens, the teals. It's so beautiful. It's like Halloween, but make it a little neutral but also a little colorful. I love that, and the quality of this one is so good. Sometimes Nomad quality can be hit or miss, but the shimmers in here are so good and the mattes are so smooth. So I really love this one, and if you get any Nomad palette, let it be this one. Honestly, you don't even have to wear this during Halloween. It can be anytime. It's just based off of different ghost towns in the United States, so it's kind of spooky, but it's not like over the top Halloween. Okay, number 2. I don't think I did a full YouTube video on this one, but I did do some stuff on Instagram. This brand has really impressed me. This is from Bella Beauté Bar. This was my first time trying a palette from them, and I picked up the Basic Witch palette. Now I think this is on pre-order, so if you did order this one, it's probably not even gonna come till after Halloween, but this is so beautiful. These colors are stunning. The quality of this one really did blow me away. Like, I was so impressed. It has gorgeous shifty metallics in here. The mattes are so pigmented and beautiful, easy to blend as usual. I just really love this one, and I think the color story is so fun. It does kind of give that witchy vibe, but it's still a little more bright and colorful. Bella Beauté Bar is definitely on my watch list now for things to try. I know they have a new palette coming out soon, but I think earlier they were making pretty large palettes, which I'm not really interested in huge palettes like this. I'm more interested in the curated stuff here. This is definitely a brand to keep your eye on to see what else they will be coming out with, because I feel like their quality is just incredible. And then number 1, I mean, you guys are probably wondering if this was going to be in the video, but yes, I did include the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette, since it did launch kind of this fall. I know I have 2 Natasha palettes in here, but whatever. I'm obsessed with this. It's just the perfect everyday palette for me. If I need like a quick glam, neutral glam look, this is what I'm grabbing for all the time. I've probably used this the most out of all these palettes in this video, because truly at heart I'm always a neutral girl, and for things outside of reviews and YouTube, I'm always wearing neutrals usually. I'm not wearing a lot of color, I feel like, outside of my videos, but wow. I love this. I love the colors. I know this was initially looking a little more cool tone, but if you were wanting more cool tones, I guess she has the Xenon palette for you, but it's definitely a little more neutral. You could still do some cool looks with it, but it's definitely not as cool as like the Glam palette and the Xenon palette. It does lean a little more on the peachy side, I would say, but I don't know. I feel like it's so flattering and just the perfect everyday palette. There's a reason that everyone is talking about this, because it's just good, and Natasha has such a nice formula. I love how sparkly her shimmers are as well, and her mattes are so easy to blend in here. I don't think there's even any cream to powders in this one, but absolutely beautiful. It deserves my number 1 spot. I do have a code with Natasha Leah for 15% off, unless you are buying it from the VIB sale for 20%. But that is it for this palette ranking. I hope you guys enjoyed it and found it helpful. I just was so excited about all the fun Halloween and fall palettes coming out, and I thought this ranking would be the best way to kind of share what I really like and what stuff is just okay. And if you've been wanting to get into more indie brands, I do have a few in this video that hopefully you guys got to see if you were curious about and maybe check out. The indie brands are releasing a lot of things right now, a lot of palettes. I know like Sephora and Ulta, there hasn't been as many eyeshadow palettes lately because the trend is kind of like natural makeup, more one and done type of shadows, but the indie brands are really pumping out the releases. But I'm gonna let you guys go. Everything will be here in the shopping section if it is available on YouTube Shopping, as well as in the description box if it is not on there, with my codes hopefully popping up on the screen, but I will also put them down below. But I'm gonna let you guys go, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.